admittedly not an expert in sociology, I feel my knowledge of the subject and psychology in general is more than enough to warrant a record of my findings and musings as I get to know the subject through his memories and his prototype recreation. Though I'm sure the organic varies due to time spent with the patrol, perhaps through understanding this superior copy, we can understand where the organic went wrong.
Vincent watched the recording on the data slate with a mixture of curiosity and dread. Ivana. That was the name of the mouse scientist who had been in charge. He glanced over at her body. The pool of blood that had escaped from the cut had formed a halo around her head. Her eyes beneath the glasses open and staring up at nothing. She looked mildly surprised, yet far more peaceful than her associates. He focused on the data slate once more, as Ivana adjusted her glasses in the recording.
Early analysis of the species is very interesting. They seem to be at a sort of cross-species focal point. Not a great deal of physical testing. They seem to hit the median perfectly, at least in lab settings. Analysis of the organic subject proves that there's something to this species that drives them far beyond any lab testing when there's a real-world application. This means finding an accurate rubric to test our cybernetics against is difficult. I'll continue to work on this equation as we set up the facility.
There was a pause before the next recording started.
The facility on the Reclamator is perfect. The energy output needed can be easily hidden, as the ship's reactor isn't connected to the city grid. We get a large number of essential materials through the reclamation process, and while communication is difficult, our benefactor will soon give me all the stuff I need to complete this phase of the project shortly. While spending a year together won't be ideal, it's the only way to keep the AI unaware of our work. Cybernetic and AI manufacture's perhaps the only thing the AI will notify Patrol for, after all, and we can't have that. It seems strange that an AI has been programmed to seek out and destroy all attempts to manufacture new AI. Perhaps through this project I'll better understand why.
Vincent felt a brief pang of guilt as the next recording started. Ivana was wearing some sort of flower wreath around her head, and in casual clothing with a drink in her hand.
This update will have to wait. Since we're stuck here, Kervik had the great idea to make sure we all celebrate everyone's birthday together. We mixed some ethyl alcohol with fruit juice that's provided, and it's pretty good.
She took a sip of her drink, and he could hear laughing from off-screen, and something being said.
I'm coming!
The recording stopped. She looked back to normal for the next one.
Perhaps I have some insight as to why the AI doesn't trust manufacture of other AI. The core we developed, when given communication skills, proved extremely hostile. Everything seemed to be reduced to survival instinct, and it found all organics hostile. I think I'm going about this the wrong way. I'm going to work through some of the memory of the organic that's been provided and see if we can structure it into a hybrid brain. I was hoping to create something purely mechanical, but it seems like we need to go through another path.
There was a blink as the next recording started, and Vincent kept watching.
We've made a breakthrough!
She smiled wide.
The black box provided had everything we needed to make a coherent map of the subject's brain. With a better understanding of the various control centers, we could more easily design the hybrid cybernetics to fit. While we need some sections intact, others will be purely computer-controlled. Even so, it's very interesting to view the memories of his father. The difference between the father and the adult organic is staggering. Anyway, about the technical specs, diagram to follow.
What came next was 50 pages of scientific drawings and notes that Vincent couldn't decipher as he moved on.
The progress we've made is astonishing, but I'll let him say so himself. Vincent, come here!
She waved off screen, and Vincent, the real one, the organic, felt a pain in his chest as he saw what looked like a 10-year-old peek over the edge of the desk into whatever device Ivana had recording.
Say hi! Hi!
The young version waved.
Ivana, can we eat soon? I'm hungry. Did you wash up?
The little one shook his head.
Go wash your hands then, and no running. I'll finish this and we can eat.
She smiled like a proud mother as the small copy walked off, and then she looked back at the screen.
For testing purposes, I thought it best to create a younger, smaller version of the subject. I haven't seen any of the aggression I expected, considering the organic's memories, but we did start off before the period most associated with human growth and hormone influx, so that might be why. I'll be terminating this body shortly, but use the same core and advance the memories. I know that I should wipe the core or start fresh, but that just feels a little cruel. Ivana!
Vincent heard his younger copy cry out, and the mouse looked up.
Hold on, I'll be right.
She reached out and the recording ended. It started again and Ivana looked thoughtful.
I found the aggression I expected, but it's still different than I thought. It's so focused. With the test cases we studied in school, we saw plenty of anger and hate from most of the felon species, and species most associated with crime, but Vincent isn't like that. It's not just raw rage or a fight against authority. He behaves and cooperates with us willingly, and despite the organic's limited education, this one is doing exceptionally well in the schooling program we've established. I dare say that if life had worked out differently for this subject, he could have become an academic quite easily. Then again, with the additional processing power we've installed, it might explain the difference between cybernetic and organic. I need to talk with Vincent more.
Ivana was cleaning her glasses as this recording started.
Through my talks with Vincent, I feel like I've really started to get a better understanding of humanity. Perhaps his education here has helped him understand his people better as well. And although I have a great fondness for Vincent, I cannot at this time recommend proceeding with Phase 2.
Vincent, the organic, perked up at that. Ivana was looking off screen as she put her glasses back on and seemed to assemble her thoughts.
While some variants of the species will be highly productive and useful, there's a give and take to it. Vincent himself is, well, he has come to possess very strong feelings of loyalty to me, perhaps as a sort of matronly figure, and yet the anger that lurks beneath the surface is still quite strong. He masks it exceptionally well during socialization, but obviously can't hide the readings we get from his own mind. We're not dealing with some aggressive thug or other petty criminal.
She waved a hand dismissively.
This is an intelligence on par with that of a dragon, a capacity for large-scale and small-scale thinking that is being directed towards, well, the goal we've given him. And, to be honest, it's a little terrifying. Dragons in politics will move pieces around and have their commandos fight and trade resources, but Vincent...
She paused and seemed to think it over.
He combines this intelligence and strategic mind with a ferocity unlike anything I've ever seen. And from reading about human history,
She looked off screen and slowly shook her head.
If one subject from this species has so much potential for violence in such a focused and purposeful manner, then I dread to think what bringing them into the Union might do. More to follow.
The recording ended, and Vincent found a separation in recordings. One seemed to be set to try and explain humanity to someone, or defend her opinion. He opened those first. Ivana was sitting in a different location, wearing some sort of suit.
Humanity proves exceptionally difficult to categorize. On a personal level, a subject, like Vincent, can show tenderness, loyalty, and humor, which draws in my associates very easily. Several of them would likely consider him a close friend already, despite being active for only 2 months at this time. Yet, when we run him through certain simulations, It's extremely evident that he possesses no limits of anger and hatred. When offered multiple solutions to problems, violence is not picked last. Occasionally it's picked first. I know that's likely dependent on the subject, and not the case for all humans, but the fact that this subject has the ability to switch between these emotional extremes, it's troublesome.
She straightened up a little and kept talking.
It needs to be made clear that humanity is a conflict-oriented species, and not in the way many others are. History seems to be measured in conflict. Ages of peace are noted specifically in contrast to the more common ages of war. There are whole periods of their history where the only force driving scientific improvement was war itself. It's stunning to me that in several cases a new weapon or technology is developed, and they implement it immediately, with little to no testing. I've found evidence to suggest that there was some academic concern about their first atomic bomb igniting their planet's atmosphere, and their method of testing it was to set off the bomb.
She looked worried at that, and shook her head for a moment.
Even in eras of peace, they have small-scale conflict, and a term that, well, they have a specific term for genocide called ethnic cleansing. This is one species, mind you. One species!
She stressed this.
Where they target and kill others of their own species for minor differences that don't even rate on our scale as subspecies. And male and female human could breed with any other, and they'll produce a human. Now, admittedly, their more recent history suggests that this is a passing phase, but the fact that it's been common for so long is extremely troublesome. Beyond this, they show a very odd mix of traits, I feel. They often take pride in their ability to kill. They were born hunters and gatherers as a young species, and this is evidence in the strange dichotomy they possess. The Yervesh took the burden of soldiering and patrolling to spare the other species, but humans revel and abhor it at the same time. There are numerous examples of humans keeping track of kills, notches on a weapon, silhouettes on the sides of vehicles, trophies and the like. This has so far only been witnessed in criminal species. But on top of that, they also have the ability to do things that then haunt them so much they'll never speak of them again. This strange mix makes it difficult to place them on the Union temperament scale.
Ivana slowly took a deep breath.
Which brings me to my next point. They've used atomic weapons against themselves 12 times in their history. 12! The fact that they didn't ban all nuclear weapons after their first use just proves that, as a species, they have no compulsion with extreme measures. I can see why this might be desirable to bring into the Union to give a stronger voice to the kinds of changes that need to be brought about to make the Union more efficient. But I have no idea how they'd really react to a political system like the Union. They've suffered under totalitarianism as well as democracy. They've flourished under kings and presidents in equal measure. Introducing them to our voting system could be a nightmare. And while the dragons have a voting bloc united in betterment of the Union, humans would likely only be unified in betterment of their own position. This seems extremely dangerous.
Ivana began to move her hands as she said the next part.
There have in fact been human leaders who somehow voted themselves into a dictatorship.
She snorted at that for a moment, and then shook her head.
Perhaps my final warning needs to be this. While humans are exceptionally varied and their inclusion could prove extremely beneficial, I fear the danger they pose to the stability of the Union is far greater. Some of them possess more charisma than anyone I've ever met, including dragons. But with all of the greed and no concern for the Union, Vincent, the subject himself, knew one of those types. Of course, they aren't common, and humanity seems to have far more examples of good and kindness and altruism, but,
She sighed.
All it could take is a handful of humans who understand how to play the system for their own gain, and the Union might be finished. Consider the Shade, as the organic is called. In a year's time, he has had a pronounced effect on the city. That's just one of them, and despite being unconcerned with politics, there's evidence that he's inspiring both the Urvesh and criminal species. In fact, it's his ability to do this that's jeopardizing the plan. Consider unleashing a whole species of this kind into the city.
She shook her head.
There might be a government that can happily accommodate the humans, but without some form of constant threat or conflict, they would become bored, and no period of peace and boredom in human history has ended in anything other than war, as far as I can tell,
she added before it was over. Vincent sighed heavily and looked at the other set of recordings. He wasn't really in the mood to watch anything else, but he tapped on the last entry.
Come on, guys, sing it!
He could hear his voice. Happy birthday to you! Ivana was sitting in the chair, crying a bit as the copy walked into view of the camera, a cake in hand, candles lit. Happy birthday to you! He crooned in her face as she laughed. Happy birthday, Ivana! He set the cake down. Happy birthday to you! Blow out the candles! The copy leaned over as the mouse did as well, blowing out the candles before there was cheering and laughter. Vincent turned off the data slate and was left alone in the room. Ivana's body hadn't moved. Her headless corpse wasn't far from her. The rest were strewn about. They hadn't made it easy on him to get them all, as was evidenced by the fact he and his suit were covered in blood. He'd been crying throughout the process, and for quite a while until he had finally run out, it seemed, and started searching the room, which was when he found Ivana's data slate. For the first time in... he had no idea how long, he turned his comm unit back on. Vincent, he heard Mock almost immediately. Vincent, can you hear me? Yeah. What's up? Vincent's voice was a bit ragged still from the crying earlier, but he coughed and tried to get it back to normal. You've been offline for a while now. Is everything okay? No, Mock, it's really not. Do you need me to send in a commando team? No. Hold on. Vincent switched channels. This is Phoenix. Eyes, Gargoyle, Shark 1. Are you all still here? You heard a trio of confirmations. Gargoyle, if anyone tries to enter the Reclamator without my permission, shoot them. Shark 1, are you on standby?
I had to refuel, Phoenix, but I'm on a nearby platform, engines hot and ready.
Perfect. Stay on standby and be at the ready. Everyone green? You heard a trio of confirmations again, and switched back to the other channel. If you try to get commandos in here, my team will open fire on them. What? What's going on, Vincent? There's some shit in here that... it can't get out. None of the work, none of the prototypes, not even... He paused and thought over what he'd need from Mock. Just... none of it. It has to be destroyed. I'll let you view my memories once I'm satisfied with the destruction. But that's it. I need to know something. Is it okay with you if the patrol picks up the suit I'm wearing? No. We still haven't established who is and isn't working for the Wardens. That's tech I need to be secure. Fine. Send a team to come pick it up. I'll talk to you in a minute. Wait, what? Vincent turned off the channel and then switched to another. Cavazor. Garage 88. Any news on that lead you're tracking at the edge of the city? Yes, but not for you. Let me talk to Kuyina. You know I listen in on your calls, right? I don't have a way to connect you two without being part of it. Well, Vincent shrugged. That's fine, whatever. Patching. Vincent? He finally heard Vera's worried voice. Look, I need you not to ask me any questions right now. I need a crate full of shaped charges and some way to completely destroy this Reclamator I'm on. I'm going to have to ask a question, she replied. There's something on this ship that would put the entire Union at risk if it's ever replicated. It's too dangerous and too volatile to even mention. And you're just going to have to trust me on this one. What anyone might learn from this, it does no one any good.
All right.
Vincent was a little surprised she accepted his word that easily.
I'll send a patrol craft as quickly as I can. Gavazor, start analyzing the blueprints of the reclamator Vincent is on, and get back to me. I don't want to know more.
The call ended, and Vincent blinked.
I really don't know if I should mention to her that using your name is against several regulations,
Cavazor said, which made Vincent sigh. That's not a very helpful statement, Handler.
Let me bring up the blueprints of the reclamator you're in, and see what I can find out.
Vincent was left in silence once more, and he moved across the lab, dragging the bodies away from the door before opening it up and stepping out. He closed the doors behind him and set the lock again, before walking down the hall. He followed the signs of the ship until he found the armory, which was unlocked still. He was honestly surprised at how little resistance the felons upstairs had given him. Perhaps killing the preacher had taken the fight out of them? Inside the armory, he picked up a Talon rifle and inspected it, before slinging it over his shoulder. Then he began to shift through the comm devices they had, until finding one that looked like it would work. He pulled off his helmet, taking a breath of unfiltered air for the first time in quite a while. He idly wondered how much of a mess he looked like after all the crying, but then set the comm device to his normal channels and pulled the headset up over his ears. He figured it was made for howlers because on the smallest setting, it barely fit him. When he looked down over his suit, he realized he'd have another problem. Moving from the armor to the crew barracks, he realized he was right, and he couldn't find a single set of clothes in anything even approaching his size. All the felons were much larger, and the scientists much smaller. So he eventually muttered, "Fuck it," and began to peel the suit off, leaving himself completely nude. The satyr and Yervesh would be in for a surprise when they showed up. He took some time to think just how he was going to achieve what he wanted to. Cavazor?
Yes, Creature 88.
With the patrol craft, I want them to add a box or crate or something that will hold a data slate. Something secure that will take a password and destroy the contents if it's tampered with. Is there anything like that available?
Sure. The Council uses them to send each other sensitive documents. If it's just a data slate, that will fit just fine. I'll make sure they add it.
Thanks. He heard a soft beep and wasn't sure what that was, until remembering the headset he had wasn't visual. He fiddled with the controls until he found the right channel.
Phoenix, this is Shark 1. I have a visual on a dragon craft. Advise.
Let it approach. Get into a covering position near the reclamator. If they attack or try to rush the ship, open fire.
Understood.
He noticed that she didn't hesitate. The thought of fighting Satyr commandos didn't seem to make her hesitate in the slightest. He wasn't sure if that was good or bad. He switched over to the channel he'd used with Mach. You got a ship here awfully fast. It's almost like it was waiting around or something. Of course it was. Mach didn't even bother trying to hide it. I was expecting a call from you an hour ago to swoop in and pick up some Warden intel before patrol got here. What's going on, Vincent? Seeing as I don't want to talk about it over an unsecured channel, you're just going to have to fly blind here. He heard the ship outside as he walked up the stairs to the main entrance. For a moment, he looked at the suit and helmet in his hand and the rifle on his shoulder, before he shifted the rifle so the sling would support it, and he could hold the grip with one hand, while the other hand was free to hold the suit and helmet. Tell your commandos to stay in the craft until I say so. Or on it, whatever. He was still picturing the Dragonfly-type craft until he opened the door and was looking at the ass end of a much larger cargo craft of some sort. There was a team of at least 6 commandos on the ramp, weapons in hand. Vincent didn't get a good look at the profile of the craft, but his curiosity would hold till later. He kept the rifle trained on the commandos and walked out halfway between them and the door, then dropped the blood-covered suit and helmet on the ground. They waited for him to grip the rifle in both hands and then back up to the door before a single satyr stepped off the ramp, moved forward to pick up the suit and helmet, then return. "Now get the fuck out of here," he said to the comm. Mock didn't reply, but the craft began to lift off, and the ramp closed as it did. It wasn't until the craft was in the air that he heard Mock again. "Now that it's clear I'm respecting your wishes, can we please talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about." "There's lots to talk about, Vincent. What you're doing is playing into their hands." That made Vincent pause for a moment. "How do you figure?" "Ignorance is the enemy. By destroying whatever is in there, you're keeping us ignorant. What intel could be gained from their operation that you've missed? How bad can the stuff be that you're willing to destroy it? What will we lose?" Vincent thought it over for a moment, and walked up to the stairs in the ship's bridge. The place was empty, and he found the largest chair and took a seat as he thought about how to reply. "I haven't had the time to tell you about my father, have I?" There was a pause before Mock spoke. "No, you haven't. Do you want to talk about him?" "I'd kill myself to give him life again, Mock. And he died to make sure I wasn't hurt. There are people in this world who don't care about their kids. There are people who would hurt children in general. But me and him, and my mom for that matter, any one of us would do anything for the other two. And it's becoming harder for me to remember him. I don't mean to remember who he was or what kind of person he was. Just..." Vincent thought about it for a while. Who he was, his look, his smell, the way he'd smile as he told these stupid, awful jokes, or the way he'd laugh when I had one of my own. He was kind, gentle, generous. It didn't matter how bad he wanted it. He would never eat the last cookie, or take the first bite. He ate last, and only when he was sure everyone else had enough. He could make my mom laugh with just a look, and I don't think he raised a hand to anyone in his life. His father, my grandfather, had fought to make this life happen. Literally fought. And what happened? He gets shot by some petty fucking criminals. And now... Vincent sat there, feeling miserable for a while. I killed a lab full of scientists whose worst crime was being too curious to say no to a mysterious benefactor. You what? Mock's surprise was obvious. I was out of bullets, so I had to use my knife. They cried, begged, pleaded. Several shit themselves in fear as I finished off their friends, and then came for them. If you talk to your commandos, I'm sure they'll tell you that the suit is covered in blood. None of it is mine. I'm so positive that what they created is such a threat that I essentially spit on the memory of my father to ensure it will never be discovered. Vincent, Mock seemed to be speechless. And the kicker? They might have unfiltered memories from my life back home. They might have a black box full of my memories of my father that I could keep forever and never lose. And rather than taking the time and search for it, and risk the wardens coming back or anything else, I'm going to destroy this entire ship. Vincent half expected that he'd be crying by now, but he was sort of cried out after earlier. Perhaps his only saving grace was knowing he wouldn't remember any of this. Vincent? Mock still couldn't think of the right thing to say, which actually made Vincent smile for some reason. Then he heard a beeping. Mock, I gotta go. He fiddled with the headset. Creature 88, the patrol craft should be approaching you soon. Understood, Cavazor. Thanks. He switched channels again. Shark 1, let the patrol craft approach. Gargoyle, keep an eye on them, but unless I say so or open fire myself, don't shoot them. I don't know what they've got on that thing, but it's enough to destroy this ship. I don't want it going off till I'm ready.